Thank you so much, Rohit, for joining us. We're talking to Rohit Kapoor today, who's the Chief Executive Officer, India and South Asia. Rohit, you have your roots from McKinsey to healthcare, Max, and then to heading OYO, which has been a phenomenal journey. I've seen you myself, and I have the privilege of being an alumni from the same school that you have, and clearly setting up massive benchmarks for a lot of people out there. So thank you so much for joining us today, Rohit. We will be talking about resurrection of hospitality and the brands in general as we pass through these times. Over to you, Rohit. Very warm welcome, and let's start to hear from you.
Thank you, Deepshika. Thank you. It's a pleasure to come on speaking. I think what you've created here is fantastic, and I'm so glad to be sharing stuff on this platform. Right. To start with, I think there is just so much doom and gloom going around. Right. I thought maybe let me take a slightly more Rohit,
we can't hear you.
You continue to hear me, or is that fine? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Got it. I request everyone else to be on mute if and once we open for questions, that will be fine. So as I was saying, it's a personal take a little bit on how's brands likely to change in the short term, right? Because long term nobody knows at this point in time. Right? It's too hard to say. So let me start by saying let's get the basics out of the way. So for example, what you see on this slide is very obvious. Being a good corporate citizen, being frugal, being sensitive and empathetic, and being an enabler. I think this every brand is trying to do, and I think this just makes so much sense that it is maybe not worth spending too much time talking about this, right? So resurrection of brands. Resurrection needs a plan and not a prayer, right? Because right now I find sometimes a lot of people are talking more about I hope this gets through, I hope this happens, I hope that happens. Now that hope is eternal, but we need a plan. And there are opportunities in the crisis. We always used to be true, even truer today, that good karma is equal to good business. And this is the best time to acquire and listen intently to the customer, right? I am the consumer, and here are the 10 things I want, right? So if I'm a consumer speaking to a brand today or a company, this is the kinds of things which I want to see or hear about. One thing is, be nice to me. I'm going to be very careful with my money, right? So I'll pick brands I recognize, like, and trust, very similar to the way I pick friends, right? This is a time when people sort of narrow down their choices a little bit and move back to brands they really, really trust, and brands which they're sure will deliver value for money, right? So that's message number one. And I have some examples. These are not the only ones, but I'm sure many brands have done this. Okay. Can you hear me, Deepshika?
Yes.
You can. Can you hear me now? Okay. I don't know what's happening, but we'll keep going. If you can't hear me, Deepshika, just raise your hand so I know that you can't hear me. Okay. Second is entertain me, because the appetite for content and streaming platforms is greater than ever before. People have time to consume, and they're consuming off certain platforms. Equally, the the tolerance for any kind of rapid advertising is at all time low. I'll just play this film. I don't know if you're able to see this, but I hope you're able to. This is an important message of ditching the handshake and doing the namaste. It's an Indian thing to do. But if we don't deliver this in a fun sort of a way, an engaging sort of a way, it's unlikely to register with the kind of audience we're dealing with. And in our country today, for example, in India, we are trying to get these habits changed, not in just older people, but a very young population. So you have to talk their language without being sort of off the mark on this one, right? Reward, right? I have been in do it yourself mode for so long during the lockdown that I would, and this is just to take it in a fun way, please don't make an issue of the words, but I'm almost like willing to give my kidney for some pampering. I haven't had house help, my driver is missing, I'm just doing so much work, right, which I'm not used to. And this is not true for all parts of India, but there's a very interesting example of a Burger King billboard which is used as a Zoom background. So they said, use the billboard as a Zoom background and get a free Whopper when our shops open up, right? Because external billboards are just meaningless at this point in time. They're all gone, right? So how do you sort of think of creative ways to reward customers even while you are in a digital-only world, so to say, right? Be fun, be unique, engage away, but be consistent, right? I know, social media is a new toy, but it is not a fashion blog. So there is a need to be consistent. And again, Swiggy is, for example, super consistent in the way they deliver messages. And this is a range of brands you see doing some fantastic work out here. By the way, I hope in these times you have a blog or a podcast, and a useful one. Think New Yorker, think people are wanting to read, people are working and reading, people are consuming all the time, right? So having your message out in mediums which the consumer today can relate to and is willing to absorb becomes an immediate switch requirement. It's not something you can do like 3 months later or 2 months later. This needs to happen now, here and now, and for all brands, whether you are a digital first brand or a digital only brand, doesn't matter. You could be selling a car or you could be selling anything, grocery, but it's important to engage in the mediums that matter to the customer. Design me senseless. Maybe face mask is the new black, right? Because there's just so much innovation, and there are two schools of debate on this. One debate will say this is sort of not done because it is a necessity and it should be seen like that and not a fashion accessory. But if I've got to make 7 billion people adopt that fashion accessory, then can we make it cool? Can we make it something to people can say, I wear this, and it becomes a talking point saying your mask versus my mask. And if that increases adoption of a good thing, I don't see the harm in that. We should not be, normal consumers should not be using up medical masks, right? Because that will be sort of not good use of the available resources. But even for cloth masks, like for example, I've seen cloth masks which are now coming up saying this is made by tribal women or handicrafts workers. That's great, because those units are not doing well right now. If they can find an alternate source of employment, there's nothing wrong with that, but it needs to again speak the language for it, the adoption to increase. Don't be cheap. So this is a create value. So this is a new series by Cadbury's, the thank you bar, expressing gratitude to everyone who was at the forefront of the COVID fight, right? And a part of this, some part of this money goes actually back to that cause. But it's a very, very interesting way of a brand switching around and delivering the same product, but a very interesting packaging. This is in all Indian languages, as you see. So this kind of innovation, which is real, instant, here and now, is going to bind customers much more to the brand than otherwise. Just clean up your act. I think nothing. These 4 words never made so much sense, and they were never so much to the point, right? I think the consumers are saying that there is a estrangement with like older values, and it's not like pretending that nothing has changed or nothing has happened is not going to cut it with consumers, right? Can you hear me? Okay. So for every brand to visibly deliver the message of saying we sanitize, we wipe, we clean, we protect, and then repeat, that loop is a here and now reality. For example, Delhi Metro showing is telling, rather than saying our stations are clean or we are preparing for opening, actually show what's happening. Get the consumers to believe what they're likely to experience once things open up. It just generates so much more confidence than just saying that we'll do X, Y, or Z. Start delivering. So, for example, this is a unique initiative by State Bank of India to launch an ATM on wheels, literally taking the ATM to your doorsteps. And more of this is happening. So, for example, Dr. Lal Path Labs and SRL, other players in the testing space, are experimenting with vehicles which actually can get testing to your doorsteps. Right? So, for most things which are movable consumption items in any shape or form, starting to deliver and delivering with adequate precaution is something which is not a question which is optional anymore. So look, digital companies are thinking, like for example, I'm sure Deepshika is thinking, how do I take speaking to every home, right? Or to every Zoom screen. Similarly, any physical product which earlier was never imagined to be delivered to the doorstep must be imagined that way. So I purposely gave examples of different brands and different things so that I'm able to establish the point that this is a widespread phenomena and not something just we are thinking about. But question is, what have we been up to as Zoyo, right? So we've been busy, right? We've added almost 13,000 new rooms to our portfolio, right, during the lockdown, because while the hotels are not open, people know they will open and they're still signing up, right? The hotels were allowed to operate to serve as quarantine, isolation for healthcare workers, for government, anybody essentially who's battling it out in the front line or a user of that service. So we partnered across the board, across states, more than 30 hospitals. We set up quarantine, self-isolation facilities in 6 cities. So we have been busy because I think this is the time to kind of engage. Look, it's not just simply a good thing to do, which it is. It is something which is asked for by society, and not just that, by our own employees, because each one of them want to stay engaged and help in the ways they can to make sure that while they are protecting themselves and their families, they have a meaningful role to play in society. And it's very important. And I personally believe that brands which came out and put their best foot forward in helping deal with COVID will be remembered for a long time. Right? This is one of those events which is written in history books. So I always tell my team that what you're doing now, remember, it's part of history. No normal month is ever part of history in a corporate journey. But what you did in April, what you're doing in May, will be someday part of history. To serve from that mindset. Right? The third part is just we are a partner ecosystem. So rapidly engaging with partners on how to sanitize hotels, how to preparing them to reopen. Because we don't know the date, but we know one day they will reopen and they will reopen in the new world, right? So we are doing hundreds of training sessions, calling, SOP training. There's just the organization has been super busy, right? Preparing for what we believe will be the new world out there. And these are simple things, but very hard to execute. Right? What you do in these times also creates new opportunities for yourself, right? Not exactly that use case, but what you learn out of that use case. So, for example, we spent all of April in running quarantine facilities, arranging free stays for medics. We had very generous donations from even general public who said, I want to donate a night for a doctor, for a nurse, for a healthcare worker. Helping the stranded, we actually did an informal arrangement with the Ministry of Tourism to make sure that the embassies were reaching out saying nationals are stuck in different parts of the country, right? So more than 15 embassies we worked with to provide them rooms in multiple states. Because if you are in the middle of a state and flights are stopped, railways are stopped, and you don't know what to do, it can be a very harrowing experience, especially in a foreign country, right? It is as true for our citizens as well. But just imagine if I was stuck in a Vietnam in this situation, or Thailand. It's very different. You're in unfamiliar zone. We stepped in that. But what that has helped, we never used to do long stay. We never knew how to do long stay in our hotels. But today, my average consumer is staying in a hotel for 25 days. That has changed our understanding of how to manage long stays. That's opened up a possibility which we never knew existed. Medical tourists. Now we know far better the next time we open up for medical tourists, we'll open up with far more knowledge. Right? Corporate housing, we realize that a lot of corporates want our co-living facilities to house their staff next to their establishments, which are they're allowed to open in the most recent phase of lockdown, or just for, let's say, for nurses or doctors to stay next to the hospitals. These are all new use cases emerging, which will get added on to our normal consumer use cases, which always used to exist. So, also, I think I just want to, when you have a downtime like this, you also go after what you always thought was you must do, but never found time to dedicate resources. And one of the things which personally was very painful is how unsafe the online environment is for women, right? Because we feel that it's just offline which is sometimes unsafe, but being a woman on an online platform and posting something is the trolling is to be seen, right? So we launched a very successful campaign. I'll just play this video for you, where all our ORM teams reoriented themselves to guide and coach people who post into using the online platform better and respecting women. I'll just play this. And some of these are actual comments. So I think I'll just stop by saying resurrection is indeed a miracle, but it is a miracle on the back of good deeds, right? It's not a template, but it can be planned. Resurrection is equal to preparation, right? I'll just stop there. I wanted to share this with you, but I'll just stop sharing my screen and very happy to take questions from here on. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rohit. That was a phenomenal presentation. I think you touched upon a lot of questions which are not just brand specific, but also directly impact the cash flows and the P&L that everybody is today talking about. So before we get to the audience questions, audience, I request you to please, if you have questions, do write it down into the Q&A or the chat panel that you have at the bottom of your screens. In the meantime, Rohit, just before we begin, some of the videos we couldn't hear the sound. Would it be possible for you to share the links of those videos later and then we can send it to our audiences?
Yes, I can do that. Sure.
Do that. So that answers your question, Kunalji. Now, I want to go back to the to the point that you started by making. The very quick pivots, and I must commend that under your leadership, the way you've been able to move the needle and the way you've responded, building quarantine facilities, partnering with governments, and taking actions. How easy or difficult has it been, and what are the key areas which helped you over a period of time that you've built to make that change?
Look, I think it was not easy because there were always those initial questions saying, how do you operate in a curfew-like environment? Where will staff come from, right? What we did was, as soon as it started unfolding in front of our eyes, like this was like third week of March, right? Mm-hmm. Our advantage was we have a global presence, so we were seeing what is happening in other countries, right? And very quickly, we put a war room together, a team of our brightest people in the company, about 7-8 of them, and said, think through every scenario. So think through a scenario where somebody comes to a hotel and gets detected for COVID. What happens? What's the SOP, right? If any of our staff members contracts it, what's the SOP? How will we work to create isolation facility? So we were one of the first to create a blueprint for isolation facility for asymptomatic patients. So let's say I've traveled in from abroad, I don't have any symptoms, but I need to quarantine, right? What is the SOP for that? We went in with tie-ups with, for example, with Apollo, because you need a healthcare partner in these times, right? So we became a partner for their initiative, which was also backed by HUL and SBI, who were donating their CSR money to the cause. So a war room, thinking ahead a little bit in terms of what's going to unfold, preparing ahead of that, and then going and talking to people saying this is possible. The second thing is, in these times, you cannot operate independently as a private enterprise. So very, very close touch with the government and people who are, and government, I just don't mean the central government or state governments, the local level DM who's trying to solve a problem. And one thing which I've been particularly proud about is, for example, I'm part of this group in Gurgaon, which is a bunch of CEOs have come together to sort of partner with the government on tackling COVID. But partnering there and saying, here's a real-time solution. They came up with a problem statement. We said, give us 24 hours, we'll come back with a solution. And almost thinking of use cases. So as soon as we realized that hospital staff will find it very hard to travel back up and down from their homes, right? And there are also some very unfortunate incidents of people being stigmatized if you're a healthcare worker. And we said, while we can't solve that, that's almost a social thing. We can definitely go to X hospital and say, I have these 4 hotels just next to your hospital. We will convert them into stay facilities for next 25, 30 days, right? So that your staff members can just walk up and down rather than even think of additional hassle of travel. We went to each, like there is a company whose crew was coming in, sea crew, and they had to quarantine for 14 days. So that they landed in Bombay, Goa. We made sure that we were ready ahead of time. So a lot of this was that war room, personal attention from the senior most leadership. This was not delegated down to say, please figure and do this and tell us what happened. Because these are new things. You have to decide on an hourly basis. You cannot delegate in these times too much. So I think those are some of the things which helped us do some of the things you saw in the presentation.
So, Rohit, I think there's also a question around this, but a very critical one. You know, for a smaller organization, maybe pivoting is easier because everybody knows everybody and everybody's talking to everyone. But for an organization of your size, how did you make that happen?
Look, that's a good question. I think one is making sure that at least the field leaders are involved in the process, right? And second is just increasing the frequency of communication. So I'll give you an example. I used to, in pre-COVID times, I used to do a weekly catch-up with my regional heads, right? I moved that to daily, every morning, right? Because you need to decide quickly, communicate a lot more, right? And make sure people understand what the communication is. So it's not rocket science. It's quite basics actually, but it's just that we make a big, and each of them is an influencer. So I know when I've communicated to my top 9 regional heads, the culture is such that will travel down to the last mile within 24 hours, right? That we are a large company, but we are a pretty connected culture, right? Like I will easily call up a business development executive at, let's say in Cochin any day and ask what's happening in business, kya chal raha hai, right? And if the guy had to tell me something saying you guys aren't doing this well enough, he'll unhesitatingly tell me on my face, right? So that culture helps in these times.
You also, I was also reading about what, say, Airbnb is going through, or the strategy that a lot of hotel aggregators or hospitality aggregators are using. Airbnb very specifically talked about moving out from their luxury segment or the premium segment properties. Is that something that you are seeing as well, that the environment, the hospitality environment would become a lot more localized and therefore controllable? Or do you think, again, the broad-based strategy will still be relevant?
So, look, I do think that the luxury segment will come back later, right? And this is a little bit evidence-backed. So if you look at China, what's happening, and there's a company called STR, which does reporting on hospitality trends. It is very clear that while occupancies have climbed back up, the budget and economy segment is climbed up much faster, right? For 2 reasons. One is, as we said, people will seek value, right? And second is, even business travelers, for example, will say, for the next 6 to 9 months, let me conserve cash and use more value-oriented services rather than something which gave me 5 frills a year. And it's a very interesting paradigm, Deepshika, because if you realize the the hospitality industry has been turned on its head, right? Because what was luxury was high touch. That warm handshake, the tikka on the forehead, the garland, the butler service, more people greeting you every 2 minutes in a hotel. Now that suddenly is like not acceptable, right? So how do you switch from a definition of luxury which was high touch to a extreme necessity which is almost zero touch, right? And that's where people will question, saying, if I go to outstanding property, what am I really paying for right now? Right? Versus a more functional experience, which will feel like the right thing. So I don't know of Airbnb strategy in particular, but at a conceptual level, I think that trend makes sense.
So, Rohit, एक leading question उसमें है कि what will, once everything opens up, once say travel resumes in a piecemeal format, what will be the differentiator between hotels? Will the same old, the budget and the brand, they'll still hold, or there'll be new areas which will emerge, which will make a brand stronger or more trustworthy?
Look, I think there are 2-3 things which will happen. One is for sure, we will see the cleanliness and hygiene, visible signs of it being a move in as a hygiene facility thing. Beyond that, it will be for the short term a lot more on the functional side. And look, budget and all is a little bit of misnomer, because my budget can be your luxury and etc., or your budget can be my luxury. It depends on what is defined as what, right? So for many people who typically will use a 1,200 rupee room, when they travel for a 2,500 room, that's luxury, right? So I see it from the consumer's lens and not from an industry definition standpoint. The fact is, wallets are thin, people will trade down. That reality is for sure there. So that way, being a brand which always stood for value, right, is, I feel, more comfortable in that position than if I were trying hard to be a premium or a luxury brand at this point in time.
So I think there are a few very OYO-specific questions. Now that people have seen you, I think they're going to make use of the opportunity. Kunal specifically asks, in this journey, as you said, that we're all going to be together and then we'll move forward together. And partners, you've added 13,000 more rooms, and I don't think that's a number that a lot of people know about. So how do you see the changes in the OYO ecosystem and in the relationship with the partners? What changes are you going to see, or what steps are you going to be taking?
Yeah. So look, I think there are two parts to the changes in a way. One very honest admission is that I do realize we had made our contractual relations with the partners far too complex, right? In terms of too many sort of heads to talk about, too many variables to navigate together. That process of simplification started pre-COVID. Will use the opportunity to make it even sharper, right? So for example, we have launched a secure product, which is like a prepaid wallet on the partner side, where the partner can almost see a balance like you will see your bank account balance on a daily basis, right? The second thing is, I think the two things which we bring tremendous value in the new environment, right? One is our ability to provide liquidity. By liquidity, I mean demand, right? Is very strong, right? And that value will be even disproportionate in these times when we will almost, many hotels will start from near zero occupancy back all the way up again, right? Second is a partnership that is on leading the way on how our hotels should run from a safety, hygiene standpoint, cleanliness. What are the SOPs? and getting back to ensuring that we are doing enough on training, coaching, and proactively doing it. And that process already started. I think over May, we probably aim to touch about 15,000 partners with the new processes. So I think those are important. And look, I think these are times where everybody sort of comes together far more, and so there's only one common problem in the world right now, and which is COVID.
Great. So I was just getting, in fact, I'm getting some messages also. I know you have a hard stop, Rohit, but I'm getting some questions on my phone as well. So I think, I mean, do you want to pick a question that you want to take? There are several coming in. And also we have Mr. Anupam Saranwala, who's also joined us, and he also wanted to ask a question, but I think we had some technical glitch there. So any particular question that you want to take, Rohit?
I'm good with any question you pick, Deepshika, actually. But
so, I think the good news, people are waiting for some good news as well. What are your plans with respect to going public? When is the IPO coming?
I have a very simple philosophy in life. I control things. I'm focused on things I control. I completely ignore things I don't. Right. So I am an operator and CEO for India, South Asia. I love to spend all my time thinking about customers, partners, employees. The IPO, everything is someday you can get Ritesh and ask him these questions. But I'm not focused on that at this point in time. There's just too much to accomplish.
So I'll just take one last question, Rohit, before we kind of have your closing remarks. In terms of, a lot of companies today, and, particularly in services where there are low investments, they have an option of transitioning to an online business model. Several companies, and I mean, how prepared they are is subjective. But what about real estate? I mean, you've come from Antara Living when you were developing that product. Lifestyle Living, now with Oyo, some of your own properties, you own some of these properties. What are you going to do? What is your strategy? How are you going to use digital to get things back on track?
So first point of clarification, we don't own any property, right? The property that you might be referring to gets supported as Oyo bought this, is actually owned by developmental companies which are non-Oyo, and we have a very small share there. We are more operating brands. It's like any other brand arrangement that you see out there. Having said that, I think it is, we are a company which is fairly asset light. So our variable cost of managing through this crisis is lower. And the second thing is we're extremely digital. So our app is, as for January data, it was the third highest downloaded travel app globally, right? So we believe that any movement which happens towards the digital ecosystem, we net benefit from that. So instead of coming out of a station and booking a room or finding a hotel through some other source, if you're more used to booking a room while in the train and reaching your destination, we benefit from that, right? So digitalization is good because at the end of the day, look, people are going to be out there. The two things which I don't know timing of, but I personally think are the most overhyped sentiments. One is that people will not travel anymore, right? And second is work from home. I think it is a necessity at this point in time, and hence many organizations will delay office openings, etc. But if we return to a post-pandemic world, whether that is 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, I'm not a soothsayer, I don't know that. But that cultures get created around coffee stations when people meet each other. I don't think that is going away. I don't think we are moving to a world permanently where 7 billion people are sort of locked into their homes and doing video calls, right? That's a trend which is, I personally think, sort of a here and now reaction to something happening. and over slightly there will be shift. Make no mistake. And I think a lot of freelancers, home-based entrepreneurs will create enormous value for themselves, which is great because these are new, less expensive ways of setting up businesses. But for by and large, even today, if you think of work from home, it's a very elitist concept, right? It's people like you and me who are probably 0.02% of India who have this luxury. The factory worker doesn't have the luxury. The construction worker doesn't have the luxury. The train driver doesn't have the luxury. 95% of India has to be back into action physically, right? Outside their homes. So I think this is somewhat like that. People will travel.
Great, that's an optimistic one, and you're keeping in view with the numbers, and that's the strategic CEO talking. Just one last, I know I keep saying that, but the last question, which I really want to take, Kumar, and particularly event industry has been very, very severely hit, and I understand that OYO at some point of time also wanted to bring in and become one of the top 3 wedding venue providers in the country. So what do you think, will happen in terms of approach to conferences and stay bookings?
Look, I think we are not a very large conference player. We do smaller trainings and conferences because our hotels are not the large banqueting hotels. We are India's largest weddings company by a margin, right? There, I feel more confident because the demand is deferred. So if you look at India, what's happening is there are 2 peak seasons of weddings. One is around summers and one is around winters. There are, of course, intermediate peaks, but these are 2 sort of very solid seasons. So summer this time is gone, right? And for the right reasons, because not the right time to just get together in large numbers. It's just wrong, right? Having said that, people are not going to defer their weddings for 5 years. Like maybe some of them have cold feet and decide, maybe this is a good rethink. But 99% are just looking for a date in January or December or November, and we are already seeing bookings happening for those dates.
Excellent.
Right. So what has happened is this entire demand of summer will get added to the winter demand. So if the pandemic has subsided by then, we will see a huge spike in weddings. Now, what shape or form they get executed, I don't know at this point in time. What we are offering is you can book a wedding with an open window. Because customers will need, it's very intuitive. Today, if I am trying to organize a wedding in my family, I say, let me book something, but I don't know exactly which month. I don't know how many people. And I don't know which date. So we are saying, don't worry. You put a token amount, book, and you have a flexibility of picking a date and a venue over next 6 months. And once you finalize, only then pay us the deposit. So from thinking very simple, first principle from a consumer standpoint, you will get an answer to every business.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being with us today, Rohit.